You think about target date funds for investing, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with these. And anybody that's come in for a meeting, that's watched the TV show and we're talking about allocation, we dig into these funds, you kind of know what I'm talking about. They can be a great tool, but they're not the silver bullet to investing and certainly not the end-all solution to retirement planning. But these target date funds have really grown over the last few years. So year end of 2023, there's over $3.5 trillion in these target date funds. A big reason for this is we tend to see these funds in like our 401k plans, 403bs, 457bs, so think employer-sponsored retirement plans. They tend to be the default option. So if you transition to a new employer and you start saving to the 401k plan, and if you don't go in and pick your funds automatically, you're usually grouped into one of these target date funds. So today we're going to talk through kind of what these are, and then pros and cons and some maybe different solutions to using them. Well, what a target date fund is, it's just really an overall allocated portfolio, kind of diversified between stocks and bonds, and then it's adjusted proactively based on your retirement date that you input. So they tend to go in 5-year increments, so 2035, 2040, 2045, so on and so forth, as far as what date you expect to retire. As you get closer to that date, those funds are going to adjust the stock bond allocation to be either more aggressive or more conservative, ideally getting more conservative as you get closer to that date. Now, some of the problems with target date funds that we'll talk through is, well, you don't have a lot of input into that. And if you've ever seen some of our other information around asset allocation, and I would encourage you to check out some of our other YouTube videos on different thoughts on asset allocation, what they're automatically doing for you may not be the right fit for you. And what we'll oftentimes see is the allocations they're moving into that are supposed to get more conservative as we get to retirement, that may not be actually the case. But first, let's talk about who these funds are good for. Well, in my opinion, they're really good for those kind of individuals starting out. So starting out saving for retirement. Reason for that is they give you some really nice broad-based diversification, across stocks and bonds, as well as domestic and international equities. What they do for you is they give you that diversification, but they also do it very cheaply. You're not paying a lot of fees for these. There's not a lot of active management going into these accounts, and they don't really have a lot of minimums. So again, it's really great for those starting out investing that really don't know how to pick and choose their different investments, or they're not working with a financial professional. But they do come with a lot of limitations. The biggest one being is you really have no control over what you're investing in inside of those plans. It gives you this base allocation. You really can't adjust that. So one of the things we talk a lot about and we see, so individuals coming in watching the show, they have these target date funds. Once we kind of dig into it, we'll find, as you're approaching retirement, they might have 30% international equities. That's a very high risk asset class to have a big holding in going into retirement. Or as we're working with some younger clients, they may be more concerned with socially responsible investing. You really can't have those types of strategies in these target date funds. They're just base allocation. You get grouped together with everybody else that's planning to retire in that 5-year period. That's really it. You really can't dictate how you want that invested to align with your risk tolerance or align with your values, beliefs, and those sorts of things. They're often used incorrectly as well. A lot of times we'll see a target date fund, but then someone will be looking at the performance of their other holdings that they have inside their 401k plan or that are available to them, and they'll say, well, I want that large cap growth holding. Well, as you add other elements to the portfolio, you really defeated the whole purpose of having that target date fund. And now maybe you're over allocated or under allocated in certain areas. And we want to try to have that diversified portfolio really align with that financial plan. But the biggest thing is, in my opinion, they're just not suitable for retirees. Again, you have no control over what you're invested in. You also have no control over where you're pulling money from. So if we're in retirement and we're taking distributions, in a year when the stock market's doing really well, we may not want to sell our stock holdings in that year. We may want that asset class to appreciate. We don't control that in a target date fund. Vice versa, if the equity market's down and we're taking distributions, well, we're selling those accounts at losses. Everything is correlated to the stock and bond market in these funds. We really have no control over where we're pulling that income from. So what we want to think about is, for using target date funds, not to suggest that they're bad, but let's take a look at all of the holdings that you have inside those plans and all of the holdings in the investment universe, and start to align everything with your values, your beliefs, your overall financial plans, and start to put this in place to really align with your goals long term. If you don't know where to start with this, we have a whole team of professionals here at Centennial Wealth Advisor where we can sit down with you, analyze all these different investment tools, and come up with the best plan for your needs.